Let's start up another Ballpark Digest live broadcaster chat. I'm Jesse Goldberg Strassler. I'll be joined by Mick Gillespie shortly. Meeting up this week on a Thursday, but let's talk about things because our seasons have begun. I'm in the Midwest League with the Lansing Lugnuts. There's my Lugnuts logo right there. And meanwhile, Mick Gillespie in the Southern League with the Tennessee Smokies. We're going to talk about the things that we've seen early on this young season. Something else we're going to discuss is simply this. The ballparks that we've been to, this is all through Ballpark Digest with big thanks to Kevin Reichard. So the ballparks that we've been to, the facilities that we've seen, the changes, our experiences there, what have we seen? And we'll go through other different things that have occurred to us. I'd like to talk about this week a riding fastball. We enjoy talking about our different baseball lingo, the slang that we come across. Well, let me bring together some of the new ideas with some of the old concepts and the old language that we use to describe it. And let me see if I can bring Mick in. And there's Mick right there. Let's bring him in. And we can get things going. What is up, Mick?
What's up, Jesse?
Every time I touch my screen, suddenly that turns the light from normal on me to making me look like I'm looking directly into headlights. So
Yeah, deer in the headlight.
for anyone who has technical expertise, however I can flip that off, and that way we can look normal. But anyway, let's discuss and Mick, you and I talking things over in advance of this show. We said when broadcasters get together, my experience is we say, here's what I've seen recently. Here's what's gone on. So let me ask you, what have you seen recently during this young season?
Well, I mean, it's just kind of been, like a typical season, like down six on Sunday, come back and win. Four-run lead yesterday, lose, and then lose the lead late. And, just the ups and downs of the minor leagues. When in the minor leagues, someone gets hurt, sometimes there's no one to replace them, that is qualified really to take their role because maybe there's no one that's available. And the sad part about it is you go through spring training and, you've got 200 plus guys that want to be on these teams and then they, funnel it down. And then all of a sudden you break camp and a weekend you got 5, 10 injuries. And all of a sudden, what about all these other guys that could have had those jobs? But that's just the way that it goes. People get hurt competing to make the team. And then when they make the team, maybe there's not much left. But it's been a fun season. It always is, even at the start of the year. But I think the longer, and you know what I'm talking about, the more you go through it, the more you kind of get the fact that, hey, there's going to be a game where there's no one coming out of the bullpen, and whether you got a 4-run lead or a 4-run deficit, this guy's getting 3 outs because they're not taking him out of there, and it could get ugly.
I don't know if you've seen this early on in the season. My experience is from the players changing temperatures, going from the Florida heat to up in the Michigan cold, and also their bodies having to deal with waking up super early in the morning throughout spring training. And now you've got to get ready for the night games. We have a lot of guys who immediately get sick in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, I don't. Well, I don't know that that's affected us as much, but we've had fantastic weather. I mean, it's been phenomenal. We started at home for the first time at Smoky Stadium. We always start on the road, and I think it's because we're in a spot in Tennessee where we get a lot of showers this time of year, and it could go from extremely cold to really hot in a day.
Yeah.
And so normally, I mean, the last 11 years we've started as the away team. We started at home this year, and the weather's been great. And then we went on the road for 5 in Birmingham. The weather was great. And we came back home, and so far the weather's great. And now we have a lot of games at home. We're only 3 games into a 10-game homestand. But, so at some point we're going to get rain. It's going to get cold. I mean, I'm just the odds of this time of year. But I don't think that it's the same for you being up in Michigan than it is for us in Tennessee. And the funny thing is that, Spence, my partner, who, by the way, just a totally unrelated story, Made one of his broadcasting debuts as a 13-year-old with you and Jim Tocco, which is just absolutely phenomenal because I did not know that. Um, he's like, hey, this is warm weather, like because he's from Chicago, so it's like he's like, oh, this is great, and it's like on a cold night, so it's all about your perspective.
Yeah, Spence and I go back all the way back to what was he, probably in eighth grade at the time. And then he did his high school senior project with me in Lansing, sitting down and interviewing Jake Marisnick with the Lugnuts at the time, now the Houston Astros outfielder.
Yeah, I mean, it's so worth talking about because I, didn't find him and recruit him to be my broadcast partner because of any connection with you or anyone else. I just, I met him in Biloxi last year, and he was available, and I thought, hey, this is a great guy to have. And then we're talking, and he's got so many connections to you, and just I mean, ironically, you and the ownership of your team, and and all this stuff. So he's 6 years old, and he grew up next to Sherry Myers and Greg. They used to own the Biscuits. They still own your team, or Greg does? Is
So,
that?
yeah, Tom Dixon and Sherry Myers are
I mean,
considered the
Tom. That's it.
twins.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Greg's the GM. Whatever. Yeah. So long story short, he's 6 years old. He goes to school with one of their kids. He gets on the Lansing Lugnuts broadcast as a sixth grader. He's got the play-by-play call. And the guy comes up and hits a home run. He's on there, talking away, as a 6-year-old. And then, which is crazy. And then you and Jim Tocco, our good buddy Tocco, are in Montgomery. They own the Biscuits. And I think he said it was his Christmas present to get to go down and do like a couple innings as a 13-year-old with you two guys.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy, right? I mean, what was that like?
I was not a very good broadcaster then. And he comes in and he joins us. And I'm going, all right, let's see what he's got. He was great. I'm going, well, I got to take some notes here.
Yeah, yeah. So I thought that was just crazy, right? And it's like I'm like, well, I want to hear the innings. And I don't know if he's played the home run as a 6-year-old, but I'm just laughing because I'm thinking back to 2006 and you and Tocco and those Biscuits teams that were in the process of back-to-back Southern League championships, and there was still in Montgomery an amazing enthusiasm for the entire experience. And this is Ballpark Digest, and you kind of get into ballparks. I love that stadium. I just love it. I mean, I still do. I love the fact that it's an old train depot, and that when you are in the press box during a game, that there are 3 different train tracks that have trains going by, including one that's like, I mean, right behind the left field wall. It looks like the train's on the wall when it's going by. And guys sometimes hit those trains. Trey Martin hit a home run off the train, and I called him the engineer for a while. Just thought that was great. And the stadium, it just has an ambiance to it. The boxes, the luxury boxes, which are all on a second level, are just fantastically crafted. I love the archways and the old whistle stop, which is down on the first base line and in the back of the concourse, and and it's the stop that, as just a baseball fan in me, enjoys just the feel of that stadium.
There was a $1,000 prize that was first announced to be given to any ball player who could hit a train with a home run. I think the mayor's name was Bobby Bright. And immediately in the very first game, I think it was a Huntsville Star, it might have been Brad Nelson, if my memory serves me right, who hit it with a home run. And Bobby Bright goes, no, a Biscuits player. Not anybody. It's got to be a hometown guy. So when I was there, the train was hit for, it must have been only the second or the third time, and it was hit by Gabby Martinez.
I remember
break
him.
a scoreless tie in the 8th inning.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. Another train story for you. A train stops beyond the left field wall. during the game, and I'm broadcasting with Jim Toko.
I know this one.
Toko's,
Yeah.
Toko gives the shout out to the train, and the train, the horn suddenly bellows out. Toko goes, I wonder if he's watching the game right now. Here comes the horn. Toko goes, I wonder if he's listening to the broadcast right now. Blare it 2 times if you are. And here's the horn. So, yes, that whole fabric of the community. And yes,
Yeah.
they'd watch it from the train as they'd come past the ballpark.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys had such a connection with the Montgomery community. Jim Toko, of all the people I've worked with, and I've said this before, and we've had some good ones go through, I mean, we've had some great, and even in Montgomery, I mean, Joe Davis was there, and
Easily.
John Laser, with Virginia Tech, great guys and great broadcasters, but I just have never seen a minor league broadcaster connect with the people like Jim Toko, And I did a couple of games with him while he was out of broadcasting and he was living in Montgomery. And I got on the air and I could just tell, like, there was just I learned a lot from doing the games with him, working the games, just the way that he would describe things and his use of colors, which I still do. I mean, I stole that straight from him. The way that I put my scorebook together, there were some things that he did that I didn't do, that I do now, like putting the day of the week on the top of the sheet, so I know it's Wednesday, whatever. And when you go back, it's easier to find that. And I think of all the people that came through, I really believe he would have been in the major leagues by now. He started that Call the Game website, and so I knew of his name before I even, got into Southern League. But it wasn't until I would leave games with him, and we would go through the clubhouses and or down the the elevator and out the back door by the clubhouses, and people would want to talk to him. They didn't want to talk to the players. They wanted to talk to Jim Toko. And I
Yeah.
just thought that was really cool, and I also a testament to his connection.
He did things during the broadcast. And it's funny that you mentioned that. I still use basically a scorecard template. And I do write up the day on the top of my scorecard, and
Yeah.
I never even connected it to him. I learned so many things from him that I don't even understand all the things that I learned. But Todd Rundgren comes up to home plate. Remember Todd Rundgren? Or
Yeah, I do.
It was Rex Rundgren,
Well, I
Todd
do.
Rundgren's son.
Yeah.
And so Toko plays one of Todd Rundgren's biggest hits to bring him up to home plate, and the entire at bat. Here's the pitch, fouled off to the left side. Let's listen to some more. And he turned it up. But there was one game where whatever put him onto it, he started talking about George Carlin's football and baseball routine. So, of course, during that half inning, he puts on George Carlin's football and baseball. Here's the pitch, fouled off to the right, and then turn it up a little higher. Would just do things like that would knock my socks off during the game that kept the broadcast such a blast.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? And I didn't know that, but I've tried to do similar things. I do this date in baseball history in the bottom of the sixth every game. And if it's, Jackie Robinson or Joe DiMaggio or Willie Mays, they have amazing songs about them. And I'll play the song through my iPhone into the microphone on occasion. If there's something about that song, or there was one about the Glenn Miller Orchestra, and we were playing Chattanooga, and of course, they had the famous recording of Chattanooga Choo Choo, and so like we did the same thing. I've always wondered, like, because the major leagues is so buttoned up compared to what we're doing here, would we be able to do that kind of a thing there? I say buttoned up, but at the same time, it's entertaining, and it's like, it's still good. Like, it would still work. Like, I could do it during a spring training broadcast, and I think people would really get it. Like, they would laugh and kind of be part of that. I think I could see Len and I kind of doing that. But I don't see a lot of that going on in the major leagues. I think that Major League Baseball could use a little bit more color, more excitement, kind of getting out of this robotic script that we have. And I've talked about this before, with different things, but I just have always thought, like, if say Jim did that in the with the instead of the Double A Tampa Bay Rays, if he did it with the big league Rays, would people get it? And would it work in Chicago, or would it work in New York? Where these baseball teams have been around forever, or Cincinnati, where they've had a team 150 years.
So I think it would. I think that you think it would.
I know it
Um,
would.
because because both of us believe in the power of the personality. That
Yeah,
don't distract from the game. The game is still important, but we can all enjoy the game while still having fun. I called one spring training game this spring for the Blue Jays in March, and it came up on the broadcast with Scott MacArthur that yes, I sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" during home games at Cooley Law School Stadium. And suddenly the engineer working behind us, Tom, pipes into our broadcast Harry Carey singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." And yes, it's a spring training broadcast. It was wonderful and it was well timed and it surprised me. It kept me on my toes. And that gave that half inning such a jolt of comic energy.
yeah, yeah. And of course you do that too. I mean, you're enjoying every minute of this. That's so
Oh,
funny.
yeah.
We used to do it. I've sung it maybe a handful of times over the years. We used to have it sponsored, and I hated that. I just hated it. It still might be. I don't know, but um, no offense to the 8-year-old that's coming up to the press box and barely knows the words, but that to me, it's like I enjoy watching the Cubs game and seeing, the celebrities do it, like see, I don't know. I had a curb your enthusiasm moment today. And I was thinking about, that some of those guys are Cubs fans, like I was like, I wonder if I, saw Jeff, what he would think about this, what happened. And then I'm thinking about him singing the national anthem at Wrigley. I'm going, you know what? That is so cool, man. Like to have those guys do it. And I think it's cool that Harry Carey kind of made that as when we were kids growing up. He'd watch the Cubs on GN, and then Harry's out there doing his thing, but
Do you know
but
the
when you
story
throw
of how
people on
Harry
there,
started?
yeah, yeah. Well, you want me to tell you what I know, or do you want to tell me what you know?
Go right
Me, go
ahead.
ahead. All right, yeah. So he's a White Sox broadcaster, and he's just singing away. And what was it? Bill Veeck is the owner, and he like sneaks a microphone in there, and they like pull a trick on Harry, and he loves it. It turns into a thing. Yeah, is that pretty much it?
Yeah, that Bill Veeck blackmailed him and said, I've got a recording of you singing, so we're either going to play this recording or you're going to do it live.
Yeah, yeah. I love those kind of owners too. I worked for a guy, Frank Burke in Chattanooga. He was just so different. He was, and he still is. He's a great guy. He owns a team in Edenton, North Carolina, the Edenton Steamers. They're in the Coastal Plain League. I read on our site that there's a chance that they might go to a different league. I don't know what all the politics are, but I know that Frank's the best. Um, he told me when I got there, he was like, I don't fire anyone unless you embarrass me. So don't embarrass me, right? So he's
Yeah.
like, and I need you to make these sales goals. I don't fire anyone, but sometimes I ask people to leave. And so I made sure I got my sales done. And he was great. I got a raise without asking for one, my 2 years in Chattanooga. He lived up to every commitment he ever made and more. He used to do this thing where, well, this kind of digressing here for a second. He used to do this thing where he would like get all these like gifts and stuff, crap that he would buy or win at a golf tournament, and it would be great stuff. Like I one time got a visor that had a TV in it. Like if you pull like the visor down, it's got a TV in it, or like cameras, and then he would give everyone a ticket, and we would go into the room. He called it the prize room, and depending on our ticket, is what we got to go in there and pick. Like some of the stuff was hundreds of dollars, and so you would get there, and he'd have Frank's prize closet open, and you get to go in and pick what you want. But he was great. He was like Bill Veeck. He had this night outfit, like a full night costume. and he had a sign that said two-night, oh, game. And then he would go down and have two nights standing downtown in Chattanooga, like just stupid stuff. You just never knew what you were going to show up and see at the office with him. And I can imagine, like, just from what I've read about the Vex, when they own the Cubs or when they own the White Sox or whatever, going all the way back to the Browns, just how cool it must have been just to see different things. I know, like, using a little person in a game to get a walk, might not be something that we would do today, but it is part of baseball history. I even have the bobblehead.
One of my favorite Vec promotions was he asked his manager, "Hey, what do you want for your birthday?" They were celebrating the manager's birthday. The manager said, "I want a left-handed pitcher." And between games of a doubleheader, they wheeled out a cake, and out of the cake popped a left-handed pitcher to be
No,
used in game two of the doubleheader.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Um, it's become a sport that is the owners and the teams are worth billions of dollars now. I don't know that the Vex would be able to afford a team anymore. Did you see the Forbes list that came out? And it had the value of all of the teams. The Yankees are worth the most, and then the Dodgers and the Red Sox and the Cubs are like the top four, and the Giants aren't far behind. I mean, they're all worth $3 billion or more. I think the Yankees are closing in on $5 billion in worth. And so it's just such an enterprise now. You've got to be careful about what your emails look like from 15 years ago, or the things that you do and say now. It's like it's can you imagine what life would have been like for Vec with Twitter and all day news coverage and everything else that goes in life? So I don't know that you could do this anymore, is what I'm saying. Like, how do people preach? Because some of them don't work. It's not, they're not all home runs when these guys try to think out of the box.
Well, that said, that's where minor league baseball and independent baseball comes in. That's the Gold Claim group, which I came up with the Brockton Rocks.
Right.
And let's go back in Chattanooga history. Chattanooga had one of the great promoters in Joe Engel, who
Yeah.
would do
Yeah.
amazing, ridiculous things.
Yeah. There's a story that I remember from working with the Lookouts that they had camels that they put in the outfield. That were in the outfield. Like, they had a fence, and then behind there, I guess there was like something, and they had camels out there, like live camels. I mean, like, I don't even understand how. I try to visualize it, and I go by Old Ingle Stadium, which is still uh, in Chattanooga. It's still there. It's downtown, not downtown where the buildings are, but kind of about 3 miles from where the stadium is. And they filmed part of 42 there, but it's not in very good shape. The concrete's crumbling and stuff. I wish that that there was a way to bring that stadium back to life, just to have it as a landmark. But I drive by, and there's this giant concrete wall that is in the outfield, like 400 and some feet around that place, that kind of frames it in off the street. And I always picture those camels being out there. And Larry Ward, who's still the broadcaster, and he's been there since they were in Ingle Stadium, he said like one of the camels got hit with a baseball. Somebody hit a home run. I don't know, like, it didn't hurt the camel, but like, can you imagine that today? Like, the video of that. I mean, it could be an absolute PR nightmare. I don't think you could get away with that now.
So in the Midwest League, it began with the Great Lakes Loons. The Loons discovered a YouTube video of a camel which seemed to be bellowing "loons" if you listened in a particular way. And they picked up the camel as a rally camel. So first they just introduced the YouTube video, and then they brought a live camel in, and then they introduced a camel mascot. Well, after a while, they stopped bringing in the live camel, but they still had the camel mascot, and they'd still play the video. Well, the Lansing Lugnuts, around this time, the Geico commercial of the camels celebrating Hump Day got huge. And we saw there might be something to this, and we declare every Wednesday to be Hump Day, and we bring in Humphrey the camel every Wednesday to the ballpark. And we had our camel, and it would wander around on the field. It would deliver the first pitch,
It'd stand on the concourse so people could take pictures. And then around the seventh, eighth inning, you'd see the camel would leave. The camel would walk across the field and out the center field gate. And that was
Yeah.
every Wednesday for that year.
Um, what's the weirdest thing you've seen at a game with animals? I could say it on TV. I mean, I'll give you an example. There was a couple of years ago where I want to say a Georgia football player got too close to Tennessee's mascot Smokey, and he tried to bite
Yes.
him. That like last year there was a guy with an eagle or a hawk, and it flew into a pitcher that was getting ready for, like it landed on the pitcher's shoulder, like at a major league game. I want to
Oh,
say
yeah.
it was a Mariners pitcher. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I mean, have you ever been part of anything like that before, where you've seen something you're like, oh my goodness?
Didn't Hawk Harrelson used to have a pet monkey?
I don't know. That might have been something that I missed.
Um, so we bring the zoo out
Clyde?
every Sunday, and so it's fun to see all the different zoo animals come out to the ballpark. In college sports, going to see an Auburn home game, right? War
Yeah,
Eagle,
I've
and here
seen
comes
it.
the eagle swooping down.
Yeah, I've seen it. I want to say that eagle flew into something one time, like some glass or something. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen the eagle live. I have been to the Iron Bowl many times and seen the eagle. It's pretty cool. I love going to Florida State games and the Seminole with the white horse, and they throw the spear into the grass at midfield. I've been down to LSU and I've heard Mike the Tiger growl in his cage. I don't know. Someone was like, wondering why Alabama didn't have like a live elephant, but I mean, you're talking about, a giant creature. It's not like you can just go get one and parade it around out there. I mean, somebody's got to keep it.
By the way,
And
Mark Aubrey writing in to say that James Paxton, Big Maple,
yeah,
was the
that's
pitcher.
right. Yeah, it was. Yeah, Paxton, former West 10 Diamond Jack in the Southern League, Mark.
Something that came to mind. Remember 1996 with the Yankees on horseback and Wade Boggs on the horse?
No, no, But I should look that up. It sounds like a good YouTube moment.
Wade Boggs on the police horse, 1996 in the
Oh
Yankees
yeah, yeah,
camp.
yeah. I do remember that when they won the World Series. Yeah, I do remember
Exactly.
that. Yeah, yeah.
There's
Now,
Wade.
yeah, yeah. That
Uh,
is cool.
uh, about things so far this year, let's talk about the ballparks that you've been to and that I've been to.
Hmm.
So you said you've been to Birmingham this year. Any other road trips?
No, Birmingham, still a great ballpark. They had a cornhole tournament going on.
Oh, really?
Well, not the Barons, but right outside of the Barons Stadium. What's really cool about what's happened around Regions Field is right across the street is the Good People Brewery, and they've done great business. I mean, I'm talking directly across the street, like Barons on one side, Good People on the other. The cornhole tournament like was in the middle of that road. They had it blocked off. So I got to the park early, took in some cornhole. Um, it's hard to watch cornhole though without a beer. I mean, so I didn't stay long, but everyone else had one. But I just thought it was cool. Like there's all these new condos. Birmingham's a city that has missed a great opportunity to be Atlanta. They could have been the South's, big kind of mecca city, and it's Atlanta and Nashville. I think it's a fantastic place. But Atlanta for a long time and Birmingham were the two big hubs,
Yes.
and there was just too many things that were going on in Birmingham that just weren't going to allow that city to be able to kind of have things like the SEC championship game for long, or it just wasn't really a nice place, to be honest with you. The investment wasn't there, and they built that stadium, and then you see these beautiful condos that surround it, and then the Good People Brewery, And so that part of town, which is right near UAB's campus, is really good, and it's nice, and it's good for the city. It's good to see, to see Birmingham kind of take that step. But the ballpark is the centerpiece of all of that. And so the ballpark's in great shape. UAB plays baseball games there, and of course the Barons play there. I love going. They take the front office, and I've known a lot of those people since I went to college at Alabama for a long time, So we've got great relationships. And then I've got a lot of friends and family that will come and say hi to me, and the booth had someone in there every day that I was in there. So it's a special place. I love hanging with Kurt Bloom and Jonathan Nelson, the GM, and yeah, CB, yeah, Ken, the visiting clubby. I've known him since I was the sports director of my fraternity in college. Helping build champions at my fraternity, and also helping keep our teams out of trouble, because we had a lot of guys who made very questionable decisions on the field, and I mean, to get competitive, right? So I'd go in and talk to him, and I never knew that, all these years later that he'd still be someone that I'd run into, but love the place. The stadium itself is fantastic. And I can never get this name right, but the Southern Negro League Museum and Hall of Fame, I think that's what it's called. Anyway, it's out there in left field behind the stadium. It's one of my favorite attractions, that if you were like, hey, look, you guys you like baseball, you want to check something out, and I've talked about it before on here, we have to go to these places to keep them open, yes. Right? And so that's why I'm saying, hey, look, if you're going to go to a game and you want to check out something really cool, go see the Satchel Paige hologram simulator. Go through and look at all of the heritage of teams like the Birmingham Black Barons and some of the great players that were amazing in our game, because they have it there. And if and there's a ton, the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown's amazing. I love that. I mean, it's like the mecca of what we do. Or the Negro League Hall of Fame in Kansas City. I mean, these are all places for us that just can't get enough of this game. We need to go. And the good thing is that Barons have an awesome stadium, so you could make it pretty fun little trip.
Looking at it now, the Negro Southern League Museum of Birmingham.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I don't have anything to Google right now.
I do now have an answer for you. Sometimes how stories can escape you, or suddenly they get triggered. Yeah. Thinking about road trips, and you would ask, hey, about animals on the field. The Lansing Lugnuts just went to West Michigan. Well, it was not all that long ago. A couple of years back, we were in West Michigan, and their pregame entertainment was corgi races. They did a corgi Olympics.
Did you ever see the traveling monkey on the dog's whiplash? The monkey, and he would herd the sheep into riding a dog with a cowboy hat on and stuff. Yeah,
monkey on the dog with a cowboy hat.
Yeah. Yeah, the Jacksonville Suns, which don't exist anymore, but I mean, they're the jumbo shrimp now, but they were owned by the Bragan family, of the same Bragans that, of course, played baseball with Jackie Robinson. And in the movie, Bobby was one of the guys that did not want to play with Jackie, but, changed his tune over the course of time. They owned the Jacksonville team. And I mean, every time we were there, it was like, there was an Elvis guy that was there. That was a little person Elvis once, and a big Elvis another time. They had little people that were like wrestlers that would have matches after the game for a pot of gold, dressed as leprechauns. They had Whiplash, the monkey. I think, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think one of the places that I saw the famous chicken was there. I'm pretty sure. The famous chicken blows the rest of these acts out of the water. Did you ever see the chicken? I mean, not a real chicken, but the famous chicken, the mascot.
I saw the chicken as a fan coming up many times. And now on my staff, I have a coworker who was one of the chicken's helpers. That was one of his first jobs right out of college, was he
Really?
traveled with the chicken. He was part of the chicken's entourage.
Yeah, let me see that. Give me that. Give me that. Check this out. Yeah. Can you see that?
Yes.
Right
Friday,
there.
June the 30th.
Yep.
Oh, that's
Yep.
great.
How cool is that? Yeah. And I mean, like, that's just that's totally from being a fan of that show, The Baseball Bunch. It might that was that before your time? Do you remember that show? It used to come on Saturdays. Tommy Lasorda was like a he would wear like a Swami hat, and it was like a baseball kid show that used to come on. No?
Oh,
Well, the
all I
chicken was
remember was
part
This
of
Week
it.
in Baseball.
All right, yeah, well, it would come on the same day, and so the baseball bunch always had the chicken. He was in there doing his antics. This is the days really before cable, so dating myself a little bit. And so when I met Ted and saw his routine, he was like, hey, a lot of these guys that are out there now, like they really take, they bite a lot of my bits. And then I watched, and I'm like, wow, he'd have one where he'd coach first base, and he'd have one where he'd come out and he'd get like 3 or 4 kids, and they'd dress up as little chicks, and they would walk by the umpire, and then they would stop and relieve themselves right on the umpire's leg.
Lift the leg.
They had the one where he would like argue with the umpire, and he'd have like like the eye chart, and he'd pull the eye chart out, and you know, it's just
His
some funny
series of
stuff.
signs and banners, the series of different signs that he would unroll, that owned me every time.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. Like I, I just am so glad that I got to see it because he told me at the time, he was like, "Look, I'm retired. I'll do an occasional show or two." But going back to Frank Burke, Frank figured out a way to get him. Had a good relationship with him, and he came, and so we had those posters. I don't take a lot of souvenirs. Like there's not many things that I've got, that are like, hey, I want this signed ball or this. I just don't do it a whole lot. But occasionally there's something that, hey, I really would like to have that. And I asked Ted if he would sign it. And he said, and I had a cubicle working for Chattanooga at the time. And he was like, hey, just put them on your cube. So I had some bobblehead dolls, and I had those, and he signed them all, and I'm so glad that I have those, and I'm glad that I got to see him too, because it's something that I'll never forget.
On the subject of those in-game entertainers who would travel around, I think Bull Durham, one of the great little parts of Bull Durham,
Yes.
is showing Max Patkin to everybody
Yeah.
like me who missed the heyday of Max Patkin.
Yeah, yeah, and I've heard that's another, Larry Ward will tell you all about it. He's been broadcasting for the Lookouts 30 years, I think, but he's been in baseball minor leagues since 1979. So, he was the what did he call him? The
Clown
King
Prince of
Prince,
Baseball.
Clown Prince, yeah, Clown Prince, and then he handed that title over to Myron Noodleman. Like he retired, and then honestly, like all those years that we saw Myron Noodleman, it really isn't. It's like every year you look at the promotional schedule, and you're like, "Where's Myron at?" Like it's that part where you're like, "God, it's just he just got sick and we lost him so fast." All those years of great entertainment, and there's not the next Clown Prince. We don't have him right now, right? We've got the Superstars, which are inflatable mascots. And I think that they're entertaining. I think the problem is they really haven't figured out a way to like totally use those mascots. I love the Harry Canary, that sings. It looks like Harry Carey is a canary. Like some of them are funny. Like some of the routines are good, but it's like I don't know. It's like I feel like there's still something else that they haven't figured out yet that could be better down the road. But they're probably the best one that's out there. The Superstars, which is like a traveling mascot. I don't see him as much though. I mean, maybe it's just our league. I don't know. I don't see him as much. That I really like the Bat Boy. Have you seen him?
Yes,
B-boy
the dancing
McCoy.
bad boy.
And like he looks like a bad boy. He's like a thin guy. He looks like a little kid. And then all of a sudden he just like starts dancing and he knows like every single like dance song, and they play him and he's on the dugout. He's pretty good.
Uh, there was a team in our league who had a bat boy. Honest to goodness, he was their normal bat boy who juggled baseballs during the game.
Nice.
So anytime the game would go slow, you just see him sitting over there by the dugout, and he would just go juggling away, and it was awesome.
Kind of going back to where this all started too. Animals. Did you see where the Las Vegas Aviators, they had that dog that like brings baseballs out? Like he gets bat and the umpire took the bat from him and they got booed and everything.
Yeah,
How terrible! How terrible of that umpire.
situational awareness. On the subject of the different in-game entertainers and bringing it back around to Montgomery's Riverwalk Stadium with the train tracks out beyond the left field wall, Bird Zirk is another one of the entertainers traveling the country, and one of the Bird Zirk skits is Bird Zirk goes out to the third baseman while everyone's going through fielding practice. The pitcher's going through his warm-up tosses. Bird Zirk wants to take some grounders, right? So here, give me some grounders. I'll
Yeah,
take some. Two
I
first
know
baseman
this.
toss it over, takes the third baseman's glove, and he's going through it. And everyone's going through it. Everything's fine. And then suddenly Bird Zirk takes off with the third baseman's glove and heaves it over the left field wall, which was more effective in Montgomery at the time because here comes a train, and everybody knows that glove is over the wall. That's where the train tracks are, and the train whips through.
No, that would have
And
been
of
funny.
course, behind the scenes, yeah, it's a fake glove. Now the third baseman's going to get his real glove. It's a huge crowd hit, and the very next pitch is grounded at the third baseman to start the inning, and he completely boots it. And the
No.
crowd went nuts.
Did they? That's awesome. If they had the video like they do now back then, that would have been kind of a keepsake there, like one of those moments. I love when the players get involved. And I think that the chicken was maybe the innovator of doing that, the umpires. I can remember when my buddy Jared played in the Southern League, and he was one of the guys that liked to dance with Myron. Myron had this routine where he would, like have two players that would stand on the baseline with him, and he would be like trying to convince him. And he was, if you haven't seen Myron Noodleman, he was kind of a nerd character. Jerry Lewis, right? Yeah. And so he's like getting the one guy, hey, and he's all physical comedy. He's trying to get the one player, and he tries to get the other, and he's showing them the dance, and they're looking at him like he's crazy. And then all of a sudden, everyone's doing the same dance. And I remember Kingery showing me how he was doing. He would practice that dance, and then next time Myron would come to town, he'd nail it.
Yeah, I remember Myron would arrive, and we would have players who would seek him out and say, "I want to dance this time."
So I want to think, was Myron the one that would do the dance off, or is that someone else? Like where the player would dance and then he would dance. I don't know if it was Myron or one of the other acts, but so let's just say for this conversation, because I could be wrong about what act it was, but just say that Myron had a dance off with one of the players, right? And then he would do his moves, and then the player would go, and then he would go. It was kind of a back and forth thing. But we had a guy who got louder applause than him. He would do these like wacky dances and stuff.
But wasn't
and it was
part of the point?
Yes.
But I remember Myron wanted the player to get cheered.
Right. But I mean, it would be like, is that, you remember that bit then?
Yeah. But the Superstars, I think, do a dance off too. I remember Myron. Do you remember the dueling banjo with the signs?
Yes, that was good. That was my favorite one. Yeah, that was my favorite one. He had another routine too. He would go through the stands, and he would he would pretend he was like popping bubbles and stuff, and it was entertaining. It'd be during the game. Just one other note, so this player, was backup catcher on the Smokies that would do the, like he had his famous move that always beat Myron in the dance off would be the penguin. He'd do the penguin, and people, it's so stupid. So he gets to the big leagues as the bullpen catcher for the Cubs, Chad Noble. And so in the bullpen, you've seen Cubs games, right? There's no doubt that when the home runs are hit and you see the bullpen dancing, when the bullpen went underground, that's got to be Noble. I mean, it has to be. Just knowing him, he starts that kind of stuff. They had this game they used to play when the bullpens were still in play, and it would be like if there was a line drive hit at the bullpen, you would have to stand there and act like you weren't going to catch the ball, and then at the last second catch it. Right? So they made him stop doing that. he is one of the funniest people, and he's great because this is a very stressful job, at least for them, for the players. Yes. It's good to have someone that, is going to kind of, cut up and have a good time. He's one of my favorite people, just people in baseball. And once in a while, I'll talk to him about the penguin, his patented penguin, because it was like, Myron, good crowd, penguin, crowd go crazy. He would just steal the show.
Well, segueing just on the subject of in-game entertainment and tying it in with bullpen, I've seen bullpens pull off some great running gags over the years.
So have I.
Tin Caps very recently would do a freeze frame every, I believe it was the middle of the 5th inning. And you would look over there and they would be frozen the entire time. And then the tableau would end. And it was something that anytime you played Fort Wayne, you would watch for the freeze frame in the bullpen.
Hey, look, I've got some good ones.
Yeah.
So Chattanooga and the Smokies, and I don't remember what year this was, but it could have been when Chad was on the team because, this kind of stuff always seems to follow him. But I don't know. I don't want to give him credit or put this on him. I don't remember. But it's been a while. They would have, during the national anthem, they would have a stare-off with the other team's bullpen. And they'd play chicken, basically. Our side and their side, the bullpens in Chattanooga are behind chicken wire in the outfield. Behind that there's a 16-foot wall that's plywood, and then it's got cut out, and there's chicken wire in there, and you can see the bench. So there's a door, and they're out there, left field and left center. They're just standing there, and so the umpires would have to break these stare-offs up because no one would want to leave. So they try to get the game going, and the bullpens are staring. That's a good one, and they would do that stuff to other teams. But I just remember in Chattanooga, the umpires said they had enough of that. We were playing Mississippi, and a torrential rain shower broke out. I'm talking about what they call in the South a frog strangler. I mean, it's just rain coming. Lots of rain, and everyone. I mean, all the fans are under the stadium, and I mean, I'm talking about this is, I don't even know if the game got restarted. Probably did. But our bullpen and Mississippi's bullpen in Smoky Stadium, the bullpens are in foul territory, a lot like the Cubs bullpens before the renovation of Wrigley, right? So,
yes.
On the warning tracks, right? Well, I looked down there in the middle of this rainstorm, and the bullpens never went inside. They just sat out there like it was a sunny day. Then, and you can YouTube this because it's on camera. They videotaped it. You could not. The bullpens had one bullpen but I remember there was they would do skits and try to outdo each other's skits. So one skit was, guys all stood like bowling pins, and then another guy ran, and then a guy rolled into his teammates, and all of them fell over like bowling pins. There was just a bunch of that kind of stuff that was going on out there. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. They had one where it was like they were kicking a soccer goal, and like like they all scored, and they acted like soccer players out in the water, and one guy's like skid across, and they had a hunting skit. Like, so once that video got out, and I think Kyle Tate, who was the Braves broadcaster at the time, the Mississippi Braves, had tweeted it. The Braves front office at the time wasn't really pleased that that no one noticed that they were on the clubhouse, but the relievers never made it back in, and they're out there. And I'm talking about, dude, this was lightning like crashing off in the distance. This was not just a casual rainstorm. They went back and forth. I'm gonna say 30 minutes doing this.
As long as everybody stays healthy.
Yeah,
How
right.
great is that?
Well, you can. It's on YouTube, so check it out. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
I mean, I guess the modern day version is you've seen the Carolina Hurricanes storm surges.
No.
Oh, so the Hurricanes in the regular season this year, anytime they would win a game, go to YouTube, search the entire playlist of collection. They would do the storm surge. It started off with the Icelandic skull clap, and then they would launch into whatever it would be, whether it would be human bowling, whether it would be baseball.
Oh yeah,
They
yeah,
brought out a basketball hoop and they slammed it home.
yeah. They
They had
did all
some
that
fun.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the same thing that in this video, the bullpens were kind of going back and forth, being creative. Yeah, they had like a walk-off home run, and like they were imitating. I don't know. It's great. It's great. I honestly, I hope that the Braves front office went easy on everyone, because from what I understand, they were not happy about the video being out, or that their players were out there during a massive shower.
Have I told the legend of the White Wall Ninja on this chat at any
I
point?
don't think so. Mm-mm.
Okay, so the legend of the White Wall Ninja needs to be told. In Beloit, Wisconsin, at Pullman Field, outfield wall is covered with ads, and a lot of those ads are white with letters on them. And Beloit, like a lot of baseball teams, wears home white uniforms. So you can understand that the bullpen got an idea. Nobody can prove that there ever was a White Wall Ninja, but a Beloit snapper wrapped himself in white with his home white uniform just to see how far around the outfield wall he could get. Could he get to the opposite foul pole
No, you're
while
kidding
the
me.
ball's in play with nobody noticing? And so during select Midwest League games, the White Wall Ninja would strike.
So you're telling me that, like, did he have like the whole white
Yep,
suit?
entirely in white, wrapped in white.
Really? And it's just a white wall out there, huh? Yeah. That is hilarious. Now I want to see that. Is that on video anywhere?
You can find a photograph. Google White Wall Ninja.
Okay.
And there's a photo of the ninja and the white wall.
That's good. That is really
Yeah.
good. Hey, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Just to finish up this week, we talk baseball slang, we talk baseball vocabulary with the Baseball Thesaurus app, third edition.
Great book, by the way.
Yeah, buy the Baseball Thesaurus if you don't have one already. We've got a pitcher with the Lansing Lugnuts that throws a great spin rate fastball, and that has helped me to understand a classic baseball term. His name is Joey Murray, and the way that it is described is he throws an invisible. Why is it an invisible? Because it's only 88, 89, 90 miles an hour, and he gets swings and misses on this fastball. How does he do it? Because it's an optical illusion. As the pitch comes in with its spin, it appears to be traveling a lower plane than it really is.
Wow.
And so because of that, the hitter, especially with all the launch angle and the lift, the hitter's trying to catch it from underneath, and the pitch is higher than it appears to be. And so if we think about back in the day, what would we call this? A lively fastball, a fastball that hops, a riding fastball. All of that, the rising fastball, all the pitchers who threw that, I'm now understanding that these were pitchers whose fastballs simply appeared to be on a lower plane than they really were. And so batters, as the pitch would come in, would think that they were down here, and then the pitch wasn't. It was an optical illusion. It was still up high. It's all spin rate in today's lingo. but
Yeah.
it's the same kind of fastball that was thrown. Roger Clemens had a rising or a riding fastball. Joe Page had a hopping fastball. It's all because the pitch seems to hop at the last second. It's never as low as you think it's going to be.
Hmm. I didn't know that. I mean, I've seen those guys. The Cubs have one, and Dakota Meckes, and I'm guessing that's it. You know, it's like he throws an invisible. You know, and I've heard that term before, but I didn't realize that it was the actual the spin rate on the ball. Just that it kind of is an optical illusion. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's the way that the ball spins, and you can look for these guys by simply saying the ground ball to fly ball ratio. Everyone's looking for sinker ballers, guys who throw it down low. All of these guys are fly ball guys because hitters are swinging lower than the ball really is.
Yeah, yeah, we know more about the game, like the science part of the game than we ever have. You know, the physics of baseball. You know, it's really changed things a lot because stuff like this, like you got the Rapsodo. Every team probably has it now. I know the Cubs do, and and the players tell me that they get like really good information off of being able to go back and check exit velocity and spin rates and know kind of where their strength lies and where their weaknesses are, things that we didn't have in the past. And then the best part is that the technology has trickled down to the minor leagues.
I think it's a lot of ways that we would describe things in the past. We're describing them differently now,
Hmm.
but we valued them in the past. We just didn't understand perhaps the science or the mechanics behind them.
No doubt, no doubt.
And Mick, thank you. This has been
Yeah,
fun.
thank you. Awesome.
Yeah,
We'll do it again next week. I don't exactly know what day because we both probably travel next week. So we'll figure that out. But the best
yeah,
thing about this is that most of you are watching on recording, on
right,
playback,
right.
archive.
He's Mick Gillespie, the voice of the Tennessee Smokies, Double A. I'm Jesse Goldberg Strasser with the Lansing Lugnuts. Go to ballparkdigest.com. Big thanks to Kevin Reichard checking in from Fayetteville. Hello, Ryan Lefevre. Hello, Matt, their broadcaster. This has been the Broadcaster Digest or the Broadcaster Chat.